Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Hey everyone, welcome to our crash course in HTML, the language that makes up the structure of every web page you see online. HTML so that by the end, you'll be able to create your very own web page from scratch. In this course, we'll break down each piece of HTML from headings and links to images, lists, forms, and more. I'll show you the basics, and by the end, you'll be able to make a web page that's completely customized and totally yours. HTML is the building block of web development. Whether you're diving into web design, app development, or just want to create your own personal portfolio site, HTML is the place to start. Once you know HTML, you'll be ready to add more layers like styling with CSS and functionality with JavaScript. To follow along, all you need is a basic text editor like Notepad on Windows or TextEdit on Mac. But if you want something more specialized, you can use a free code editor like VS Code or Sublime Text. I'll be using VS Code in this tutorial, but use whatever you're comfortable with. Alrighty guys, let's take a quick look at the structure of a simple HTML document. Every HTML file starts with something called a doc type declaration. So let's create that. Doc type HTML. This tells the browser that this is a HTML file. Next, we have the opening HTML tag and closing. Inside the HTML tags, we have the head and the body section. So we'll add the head. And inside the head, we'll add a title. This is what will show up on the browser tab just here. So I'll add HTML page. Now if we save that, Command S for Mac, we'll refresh it here, you'll see HTML page on the browser tab just there. Now under the head, we're going to add the body tags. Anything inside the body tags will show up on the web page. Let's add a heading here, H1, opening and closing, and we'll say hello world. Now Command S to save, and there you can see hello world. The code might look a little daunting, but don't worry. Throughout this course, we'll break it down and go through each part so you'll know exactly what each tag does and how to use it. Are you ready? Let's dive into HTML and start building the structure of your first web page. Let's get coding. Welcome back. Now that we know what HTML is and why it's so important, let's get hands-on and create the basic structure of an HTML document. Think of this like the foundation of a building. It's essential for everything else we'll add on top. First, let's make sure we know how to create a HTML file. Open your text editor and create a new file. Save it with the .html extension. For example, index.html. The .html extension tells your browser this is a HTML file. If you'd like to add more pages to your site, you can create additional HTML files in the same folder, like about.html or contact.html. Each file will be a separate page on your site with its own HTML structure. Now that you know how to set up a HTML file, let's move on to structuring your content with HTML tags. Let's start with the basics of how HTML is written. HTML uses tags to mark up content. Tags are instructions that tell the browser how to display content. Most HTML elements have an opening tag and a closing tag. The opening tag looks like this, and the closing tag looks like this. The closing tag has a / before the tag name to mark the end of that element. In this example, the P tag is the opening tag for a paragraph, and the P tag is the closing tag. Everything between the opening and closing tags is the content of the element. Some HTML tags don't need a closing tag. These are called self-closing tags. For example, an image tag is self-closing, meaning you don't need to add an ending tag. In this example, image stands alone without a closing tag. It includes attributes to provide additional information, like the src attribute for the image URL and the alt attribute for accessibility. Now that we understand how tags work, let's look at how to structure a HTML document. Alright, let's start by looking at the basic structure of a HTML document. This structure, also known as the HTML skeleton, is the same across every website. At the very top, we have the doctype HTML declaration. This tells the browser that we're using HTML5, which is the latest version of HTML. Next, we wrap everything in HTML tags. This is the root of our document, and it tells the browser that everything inside is HTML content. Inside the HTML tags, we have two main sections, the head and the body. The head section is where we put information about the page that doesn't show up directly on the screen, but it's still important. Let's break this down. The title tag sets the title of the web page, which you'll see in the browser tab. Here I have added HTML page. Now, the body section is where all the visible content goes, everything that the user will see when they visit your page. Here I have added a heading tag, the H1 tag, with the words Hello World. Under that, let's add a paragraph with the P tag. I'll put This is my first web page in it. Now we've got a basic HTML page. Alrighty guys, let's create our first HTML page. So the first thing we'll do is click on the file and type index.html. From there we're going to add the doc type HTML. Under that we'll add the HTML tags. Inside the HTML we'll add the head tag. Inside the head we'll add the title, my first web page. Now under that we'll add the body. Inside the body tags we'll add a H1 hello world. Under that we'll add a P tag saying this is my first web page. Now if we save that and open with live server, you'll see hello world. To recap, every HTML document needs these essential parts. The doctype HTML tag at the top to tell the browser we're using HTML5, a HTML tag that wraps everything, a head section for the important info like the title, a body section with everything the user will see on the page. This is our HTML skeleton, and in the next lesson we'll start adding more content to bring this page to life. Keep practicing these basics, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, welcome back to our HTML series. In this lesson, we're diving into one of the simplest but most important parts of HTML, headings and paragraphs. Headings give structure to your content, and paragraphs allow you to add text that's easy to read. Headings are like titles and subtitles on your web page. They help organize content, making it easier for both people and search engines to understand what each section is about. HTML gives us 6 levels of headings, from H1 to H6, with H1 being the most important. Alrighty guys, let's add some headings. So the first thing we'll do inside the body, we'll add a H1 saying main title of the page. Save that. Next we'll add a H2 saying section heading. Save it again, and you'll see it on the right again. Next, we'll add a H3 subsection heading, and we'll save that, and you'll see on the right. Now we'll add a H4 minor heading, save again, and now H5 smaller heading, and you'll see it on the right again. The last one, H6 tiniest heading. Next up, let's talk about paragraphs. For regular text content, we use the P tag. Just like in a book or an article, paragraphs break up text into readable chunks. Each P tag creates a new paragraph, and by default, there's some space between paragraphs to make them easier to read. See how each paragraph is nicely spaced? This makes it easy to read and follow the content flow. Let's add some headings and paragraphs to a sample HTML page to see how they work. So we'll add a title, headings, and paragraphs. Now if we save that, you'll see it in that tab just there. Next, in the body, we'll add a H1, welcome to my page. There you can see on the right. Next, we'll add the P tag. This is a website all about coding. We'll save that, and you see on the right again. Now let's add a H2 about HTML. Under that, we'll add a P tag. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. We'll save that again. Now we'll add one more. We'll add the H3 Why Learn HTML. We'll add a P tag under that. Learning HTML is the first step to becoming a web developer. Save that. Here's some quick tips. Only use one H1 per page for the main title. This helps search engines understand what the page is about. Use other heading levels H2 through to H6 to break up sections within the content. Keep paragraphs short and focused. It's easier to read and keeps users engaged. To recap, headings and paragraphs are the core building blocks for structuring text content on a web page. Headings give a hierarchy to your content, while paragraphs add readable chunks of text. That's it for headings and paragraphs. Go ahead and practice by creating some sections and text on your own web page. In the next lesson, we'll learn about adding links to navigate between pages. See you there! Hey everyone, welcome back to our HTML series. Today we're tackling one of the most important elements of the web, links. Links are what connect web pages, turning a single page into part of a larger web. They allow users to navigate between pages, sections, and even websites. Let's dive into how links work in HTML. To create a link in HTML, we use the A tag. The A tag stands for anchor, and it needs a href attribute to work. The href attribute holds the URL of the page or section you want to link to. In this code, we're using the A tag to create a link that says go to Google. When clicked, it will take us to google.com. Sometimes you might want a link to open in a new tab rather than the same one. To do this, we add the target underscore blank attribute. Let's do that now. So inside the opening A tag, we add target equals underscore blank. Now, if we save that, let's click on this link and see what happens. It opens up in a new browser tab. To link to another page on your site, use an anchor tag. For example, let's link from index.html to about.html. The href attribute specifies the file you want to click to. Here, clicking About Us will take users to about.html. As mentioned briefly earlier, you can also link to external websites by setting the href attribute to a full URL like google.com. You can also use links to jump to specific sections within the same page. To do this, we need two things: an ID attribute on the target element and an A tag with a link to that ID. In this section, we add an ID equals about to the heading we want to jump to, then use href equals hashtag about to link to it. When we click the link, the browser scrolls right to that section. See how it takes us straight to the About Us section? This is really helpful for long pages where users want to jump around quickly. Another common use for links is linking to files like PDFs or images for users to download. This works the same way as any link, just with the file path in the href attribute. Here, we're linking to an image file. The download attribute suggests the browser download the file instead of opening it in a new tab. It's important to make links clear and descriptive. Instead of saying, click here, use specific link text like visit our blog or download PDF. This makes your page more accessible and helps with search engine optimization. Let's create some links. So as you can see, I've already got some boilerplate code on the right. And now let's create a link to jump to this About section here. So I'm going to create an ID equals about. Now to jump to this section, we'll need to create a link. So we'll create A tags with href equals hashtag about. Now inside, we'll say go to about section. Now we'll save that. Now if you look at the link, if we click on that, it should jump to, but we're already there, so it doesn't matter. Next, we'll create another link, which will go to Google. So A tags with href equals http www.google.com. And we'll add go to Google. We'll save that, there it is, but we'll also add the target equals underscore blank attribute. Now if we click on that, it'll take us to a new tab to Google. Next, the last one is a link to download a file. So href equals YouTube logo.png. Now we'll add the download attribute. Inside we'll say download logo. We'll save that. Click on the link and it will download. Now for some quick tips. Always use descriptive text for your links to improve accessibility. Use the target equals underscore blank carefully. Don't overuse it, as it can be distracting. When linking to sections on the same page, remember to add an ID to the target section. To recap, Links in HTML use the A tag with a href attribute to point to the target location. We can link to other websites, files, or even specific sections within the same page. Links make the web connected and help users navigate with ease. That's it for links. Go ahead and try adding some links to your web page. Practice linking to other sites, sections, and files. In the next lesson, we'll cover how to add images to your page. See you there. Hey everyone, welcome back to our HTML series. In this lesson, we're going to talk about adding images to your web page. Images are a fantastic way to make your site more engaging, and they're really easy to add with just one tag. Let's jump right in. To add an image in HTML, we use the image tag. Unlike other tags we've seen so far, image is a self-closing tag, which means it doesn't have an ending tag. It needs two main attributes, src and alt. Here's what the image tag looks like. The src attribute points to the location of the image file. The alt attribute provides a description of the image. This is really important for accessibility and helps search engines understand your image. You can add images hosted online by using the full URL as the src value. Here, we're loading an image from an external website. You just put the full URL in the src attribute, and it will appear on the page. If you have an image saved on your computer in the same folder as your HTML file, you can use a relative file path to link to it. In this case, the src attribute only has the file name, so the browser looks in the same folder as the HTML file. You can also organize images into folders and link them. We can control the size of images with the width and height attributes, which set the dimensions in pixels. This code sets the width to 300 pixels and the height to 200 pixels. Be careful with setting dimensions though, as stretching or squishing an image can make it look distorted. Try to keep the width and height proportional to the original image size. Let's talk a bit more about alt text. It's not just there for accessibility, it's also useful if the image doesn't load. The alt text will display in place of the image, giving the user some context. If the image file is missing, the alt text will show instead. Make your alt text descriptive, like picture of a mountain during sunrise, rather than just image. This helps screen readers describe the image for the visually impaired users. Common mistakes to avoid. Forgetting the alt attribute. It's essential for accessibility and good practice. Using huge image files. Always use optimized compressed images to keep your web page fast. Distorting images by setting the width and height without keeping proportions. Let's add some images to our web page. As you can see, I've got some text on the right already. So let's add a local image. We'll add image source equals yt logo.png, as it says on the left there. Now we'll add the alt attribute, logo of relax into code. Now we'll add the width attribute, 300, self-closing tag, save that, and it'll show up on the right there. Next, we'll add an external image. I've already got this image source equals, I'll use this website already that I've found earlier. It's free. Paste it in. Alt equals dummy image. Now we'll add the width attribute as well for 300. Self-closing, save that. There you have it on the right. Last one is a broken image. what will show up when there's no image. So image tag source equals missing image.png. We don't have that, so it won't show up. Alt equals image of a missing file. Save that, and you'll see that on the bottom. Here's some quick tips. Always use the alt attribute, even for decorative images, as it helps with accessibility. Optimize images by resizing and compressing them before uploading to improve your site's load time. Be mindful of copyright. Only use images you have permission to use or that are in the public domain. To recap, adding images in HTML is easy with the image tag. Just set the source for the image location, add alt text for accessibility, and use width and height attributes to adjust the size if needed. That's it for images. Try adding some images to your web page to see how they enhance your content. In the next lesson, we'll look at how to structure content with lists. See you there. Hello again. Welcome back to our HTML series. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about lists. Lists are a great way to organize information on your web page, and HTML gives us a couple of different types to choose from. We'll look at ordered lists, unordered lists, and definition lists, and learn when to use each. Let's get started. In HTML, a list is a way to group related items together. We often use lists for things like navigation menus, steps in a process, or just a series of items. HTML has three types of lists: ordered, unordered, and definition lists. Let's start with unordered lists. An unordered list displays items with bullets next to them, which is useful for lists where the order doesn't matter. In this example, we use the UL tag to create an unordered list, and each item is wrapped in an LI tag. The LI stands for list item. The browser will add bullets automatically for each item. See how each item is listed with a bullet? This is great for lists where order doesn't matter, like ingredients in a recipe or a list of features. Next, we have ordered lists. Ordered lists display items in a specific order with numbers automatically added to each item. This is perfect for step-by-step instructions or ranked items. Here we use the OL tag to create an ordered list. The browser numbers each item, so it's clear that these steps should be followed in order. As you can see, each item is numbered automatically. This is great for instructions or any list that needs a specific sequence. Finally, we have definition lists. These are a bit different and are used to pair terms with definitions or descriptions. We use three tags: DL, DT, and DD. The DL tag starts the definition list. DT is for the term, and DD is for the description. Here, each term is followed by its description. This type of list is useful for glossaries, FAQs, or any list that has pairs of items and their explanations. You can also nest lists to create sublists. Just put one list inside another list item. As you can see, each main category has its own sublist. This can be useful for organizing information into categories and subcategories. Here's a quick tip for lists. Use unordered lists for items that don't need to be in a particular order. Use ordered lists when the sequence matters, like for instructions. Use definition lists for pairs of terms and descriptions, like in glossaries. Keep your lists clear and avoid nesting too deeply to maintain readability. Let's create some lists. So the first thing we're going to create is an unordered list. So UL, inside the UL tags, we'll create LI tags. Milk, add another one. Bread, last one. Eggs. We'll save that, and you can see an unordered list on the right there. Let's create an ordered list now. So OL tags, inside list item, turn on the oven. Next, add another one, mix ingredients. One more, bake for 30 minutes. We'll save that, and you can see the ordered list, 1, 2, and 3. Last, we'll add a definition list. So DL tags, inside that, we'll have DT for definition term, HTML. Now DD, the standard language for creating web pages. Now we'll create another one, DT CSS. Add another DD tag. Used for styling HTML pages. Last DT tag, JavaScript. Adds interactivity to web pages. Now we'll save that, and there you have it. To recap, HTML has 3 main types of lists: unordered, ordered, and definition lists. Each has its own purpose and structure, so you can choose the one that best fits your content. That's it for lists. Go ahead and experiment with adding lists to your web page. In the next lesson, we'll explore how to add forms to collect user information. See you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to our HTML series. Today we're going to learn about forms, which are essential for collecting information from users, whether it's a login page, a search bar, or a contact form. Forms make it all possible. Let's dive in. Forms are used to collect and send data from users. The data is sent to a server where it can be processed, stored, or used for any purpose you need. We start with the form tag, which wraps around all the elements in your form. Inside, you can add various input fields like text boxes, buttons, and checkboxes. The action attribute specifies where the form data will be sent. Here, it's set to submit form, which could be a URL where the data gets processed. The method attribute tells the browser how to send the data. The 2 main methods are post for secure data and get for retrieving data. Inside the form tag, let's add a few types of input fields: text, email, and a submit form. The type attribute specifies the kind of input: text for general text, email for email addresses, and submit for the submit button. We're also using the name attribute, which labels each input so the server knows what data it's receiving. The placeholder attribute provides a hint to users about what to enter in a field. It appears as light grey text inside the input box and disappears when the user starts typing. In this example, placeholder equals enter your name shows up in the text box before anything is typed. This makes it easier for users to understand what they should enter. The required attribute makes an input field mandatory. If a user tries to submit the form without filling in a required field, the browser will prevent the submission and show an error. Here, the required attribute ensures the email field must be filled in. It's a great way to ensure you get essential information from users. Let's explore a few other input types that you might find useful in your forms. The number type lets users enter numbers only, while date opens a date picker for selecting a date. The color type opens a color picker, which is especially fun for forms where users need to pick colors. A form typically has a submit button to send the data. We use a button with type equals submit for this. The submit button sends the form data to the server for processing. It's the final step in the form filling process. Let's create a form. So the first thing we'll do is add the form tags. And we'll add action equals submit. Method equals post. Now close the form tag. Inside the form tag, we'll add a label. For equals name. We'll add the name. Now we'll save it, and you'll see on the right, that's the label. Now the input. Type equals text. ID equals name. Placeholder equals name as well. Enter your name. And it is required. Next, we'll add another label for the email. Label for email. Add the email. Then we'll add the input. Type equals email. ID equals email. Name equals email. And placeholder, enter your email. And it's required as well. Save that. Now we'll add another label. This time it's for the age. Add the age. Now we'll add the input. Type equals number. ID equals age. Name equals age. Now the placeholder is enter your age. Self-closing, save that. Now you can turn the number up or down. Next label is for birth date. Then add the input. Type equals date. ID equals birth date. And name equals birth date. Now we'll save that. And now you can adjust the date. Next label is for color. So color, favorite color. So now create an input for it. So input, type equals color, ID equals color, and name equals color. Save that. And you can select a color. Now the last thing we're going to do is create a button. Add the button, type equals submit. and type submit. Now we'll save that. There you have it. Here's a quick tip for forms. Use placeholder text to guide users in filling out fields properly. Add the required attribute to fields that must be filled before form submission. Experiment with different input types to make forms more interactive and intuitive. Today, we covered how to create forms, use essential input types, and enhance user experience with placeholder and required attributes. Forms are crucial for user interaction, so practice creating them and get comfortable with these attributes. That's it for forms. Welcome back. Today we're learning about tables in HTML. Tables are useful for organizing data into rows and columns like lists of information, schedules, and more. We'll go over the essential tags to create tables and how to set up headers and rows. Let's jump in. We start with the table tag. This tag creates the table structure and all table elements go inside it. Everything between the opening table and the closing table tags will be part of the table. Next is the TR tag, which stands for table row. Each TR tag creates a new row in the table. You'll use TR tags to organize your table into separate rows. Within each row, we add cells using the TD tag, which stands for table data. These cells hold the actual content. Here, each TD tag is a cell in the row. You can add as many TD tags as you need to create columns in each row. To create header cells, we use the TH tag instead of TD. These are usually used in the top row to label each column. The TH tags in the first row create header cells with labels. By default, header cells are bold and centered. Let's create a table now. So the first thing we need is the table tag. Inside that, we'll add a TR. Inside that, we'll add the TH tags. Name, we'll add another one. TH age, one more. TH tags, occupation. I'll save that. You can see the table headers there. We'll add another table row now. TR. Now we'll add the TD tag. John. Add another one. Age 30. Engineer. We'll create one more row now. TR. Add a TD. Jane. Add another TD. Age 25. Another TD. Designer. Now if we save that, that's our basic table. Now there's no styling, so let's add a border. Border equals 1. Now have a border around everything. By default, tables aren't styled and may look plain. You can add borders, background colors, or text alignment to make them look better. We'll cover CSS in another lesson, but here's a quick example of adding a border. The border equals 1 attribute adds a basic border around each cell. For more customization like colors and padding, you'll use CSS, which we'll cover later. Today, we learned how to create tables in HTML using table, TR, TD, and the TH tags. Tables are great for organizing data in rows and columns. In future lessons, we'll dive deeper into styling to make tables look even better. That's it for tables. In our next lesson, we'll cover block and inline elements. See you there! Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about two important types of elements in HTML, block level and inline elements. Understanding these elements will help you structure and organize your web page content. We'll focus on two specific tags, div, a block level element, and span, an inline element. Let's get started. To start, let's break down what block level and inline mean in HTML. A block level element takes up the full width of the container and always starts on a new line. Think of it as a building block that starts vertically on your page. Inline elements, on the other hand, take up only as much space as they need and don't start on a new line. They flow with other elements horizontally, like words in a sentence. The div tag is one of the most common block level elements. It's short for division and is used to create sections or containers for other elements. In this example, the div tag wraps around a h2 and a p tag. The div acts as a container, creating a block level section that starts on a new line and takes up the full width available. Use div to organize sections of content, create layouts, or group multiple elements that belong together. This is especially helpful when styling with CSS, which we'll get into later. Now let's talk about the span tag, which is an inline element. Unlike div, span is used to wrap a small part of content, like a word or phrase, within a large block of text. In this example, the span tag wraps around the words special word. The span doesn't start on a new line. Instead, it stays in line with the rest of the text. Span is great for targeting small portions of text. You might use it to style specific words, change colors, or apply formatting to certain parts of your text. Again, something we'll do with CSS later. Let's look at how div and span can help structure content in a real-world example. In this example, we use div tags to create separate sections for each product. The main div groups all content under our products, and each product has its own div section. The span tags around organic and homemade allow us to target these words individually without breaking the line. Later, with CSS, we could style each span differently. Understanding block and inline elements is essential for page layout. You can use div to create main sections, headers, or footers, while span is perfect for styling text within a paragraph. While div and span alone won't change how content looks, we'll use CSS to style them in future lessons. CSS will let us add colors, adjust layout, and control spacing, so these tags become even more powerful. Today, we learned about the differences between block and inline elements in HTML. We covered how div creates a block level section and span works as an inline wrapper. Both are essential for organizing content and adding layout structure to your web page. That's it for this lesson on block and inline elements. In the next lesson, we'll learn about semantic elements. See you there. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to cover a really important topic that takes your HTML to the next level: semantic elements. Semantic elements like header, footer, nav, main, section, and article help you give your content meaning. Not only does this improve readability for developers, but it also makes your site more accessible to screen readers and better understood by search engines. Semantic elements describe the role or purpose of the content within them, making your code easier to understand. These elements communicate the structure of your page to both developers and browsers. Let's look at some of the most common semantic elements and what they're used for. The header element typically contains introductory content or navigation links. It's often used at the top of the page or within a section or article. Here, the header includes a heading and navigation links. The footer element is used for footer content like copyright information or contact links. It's usually found at the bottom of the page or within a section. In this example, the footer holds a copyright notice. The nav element is specifically for navigation links that help users navigate the website. Using nav tells the browser and screen readers that these are key navigation links. The main element is used to wrap the main content of your page. It should contain the unique content that's central to the page. Using main improves accessibility, helping screen readers jump straight to the main content. The section element groups related content together, often with a heading. It's great for dividing your content into logical parts. Think of section as a way to structure your page into different parts. The article element is for independent, self-contained content, like a blog post or news article. Each article should make sense on its own. Using article is helpful for separating standalone pieces of content. Now you might wonder why all of this matters. Here are two big reasons to use semantic elements. Improved accessibility. Screen readers and other assistive technologies can understand the structure of your page better, helping users navigate it more quickly. SEO benefits. Search engines use semantic tags to better understand your content, which can improve how your page is ranked and displayed in search results. Today, we covered some essential semantic elements: header, footer, nav, main, section, and article. These elements make your HTML more readable, accessible, and search friendly. Using semantic tags is a simple way to improve the structure and quality of your code. Feel free to research more semantic elements. That's it for this lesson. In the next one, we'll wrap up everything we've learned in this HTML series. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the final lesson. Congratulations! You've made it to the end of our HTML tutorial series. We've covered a lot, so let's quickly recap what we've learned and go over some tips to help you keep practicing and growing as a web developer. We started with the basics, learning that HTML is the backbone of every web page. We explored tags, elements, and attributes to mark up our content. I showed you how to create a HTML file and explained how opening and closing tags work, with some tags being self-closing. You also learned about the essential structure of a HTML document, which includes the doc type HTML, head, and body tags. This gives your document a proper framework so browsers can interpret it. We covered headings using H1 to H6 tags for organizing text and P tags for paragraphs, which form the core of most content. Next, we looked at creating multiple HTML files and linking between them with A tags. Remember, the href attribute in A tags lets you navigate within your site or link to external websites. We introduced the image tag to add images with important attributes like src for the image source and alt text for accessibility and SEO. I also showed you how to adjust image sizes with the width and height attributes. You learned how to create ordered and unordered lists using OL, UL, and LI tags. Lists help you organize items, whether in order or without a particular sequence. We briefly explored tables using table, TR, TD, and TH tags. These tags help create structured, grid-like layouts for displaying data, and we touched on styling, which we'll cover more in CSS. We talked about inline elements like span for inline content and block level elements like div for larger content blocks. These are foundational for structuring your layout, especially when you start styling with CSS. You learned about creating forms using the form, input, label, and button tags, as well as attributes like placeholder and required. Forms are essential for gathering user data. Finally, we covered semantic tags like header, footer, nav, main, section, and article. Semantic tags make your code more readable and improve accessibility and SEO. Now that you know the essentials of HTML, I encourage you to practice. Try building a small project, like a simple web page or a blog layout, using everything we've covered. You could include a header with navigation links, a few paragraphs and headings, images, lists, and a footer to get comfortable with using different HTML elements together. Once you're comfortable with HTML, the next step is to learn CSS to style your pages and make them visually appealing. CSS allows you to control colors, fonts, spacing, and layouts, bringing your HTML to life. After CSS, JavaScript is the next building block. It enables interactivity like animations and dynamic content changes. One last tip, let's talk about HTML comments. Comments are notes in your code that won't be visible on the web page, but they help keep your code organized and remind you of important sections. To add a comment, wrap your text in this. Comments are incredibly useful for documenting your code, especially in larger projects. That wraps up our HTML series. Keep practicing and experimenting. The more you code, the more comfortable you'll become. Thank you for following along, and if you enjoyed these lessons, don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials. Next, we'll dive into CSS, so stay tuned. Until then, happy coding!